We're live.
Alrighty, we're live. We're live. Welcome back, guys. We're here with another client interview. Today, we are joined by Bryan, one of our favorite clients, top clients in our mastermind program. Bryan, you want to just give the quick rundown about yourself, what you do, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, my name is Bryan Scudiere. I'm an online, I believe I look at it as a men's group. I'm founder of the Unbreakable Dads men's group. I help guys lose anywhere between 20 and 50 pounds in less than 180 days.
Awesome, hell yeah, dude. Well, for everyone watching, you want to kind of just give insight into where you are or where you were when you first came across us, came into the program, and then what you finished out in November at.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been doing this since 2020, and I was really, really good at making like $1,000 a month. Was really top notch at that, and I eventually built it up to, hovering between seven. I had a couple 10K months, nothing consistent, and the big problem was lead flow. I knew that my conversion mechanism in terms of actually when I got somebody on the phone was really solid, right? I knew how to help people. I knew how to ask the right questions, but I just could not generate leads for the life of me. And I was posting every single day, multiple times a day, a million story panels. So a couple years back, I started hiring guys who help coaches grow. I started hiring coaches, and I went through three before finding you guys. And while I took things from different people, I had a couple busts along the way and learned a bunch of different stuff and spent a lot of money and didn't see a lot of return, but kind of stuck through it. By the time I stumbled upon Vince, I actually saw you organically through TikTok the very first time.
Mhm.
And it was the one YouTube video that you did. It was like an hour long. And I was sitting on my couch with no calls on the calendar, no leads, and no DM conversations. And I was like, fuck it, I got time. Let me just watch this. And by the end, I was
Yeah.
like, this guy's fucking legit. The only coach that I know that's like talking about how like the numbers all the way through the funnel. Like it was the only guy that wasn't just like, yeah, you can get 10K a month really easy. We're like, no, not that it's really easy, but this is exactly how you do it. And this is exactly what you need to do it. And I was so impressed that I just went to your profile and I watched every single one of your TikToks because, hey, I had literally nothing else to do. And I was like, fuck it. I like with his style. Like, I'm just going to start doing his free stuff. Within 30 days of just doing the shit you were giving out for free, I had my first 10K month. And then the month after that, we did 11.5. And I was like, well, if his free stuff is this good, like, I got to hire this guy. So August, we did 11.5 again. We started implementing the systems. September, I had my first 15K month. October, I had my first 20K month. And then November, we just did just shy of 45.
So
So,
That's so
savage,
fucking
dude.
cool.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
That's so fucking cool.
So it's been a wild ride. And this month we're just shy of 15K already. It's only the 13th.
That's awesome, bro. It's okay. Decembers are kind of notorious for any sort of like coaching or info stuff like that. We're telling everyone over the last couple weeks, like, hey, if it gets like a little bit slow halfway through the month, last 2 weeks, that's very noticeable. It's always like the week after Christmas where it just like spikes.
Yeah. Yeah, everyone's got to get through the mental hurdle of Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um. So yeah, obviously you mentioned you've gone through quite a few coaches in the past, and took some value here and there. What do you think was the main thing from us and like our approach that stuck out that you really like felt the difference and um, yeah, saw in your business?
Well, I mean, just even looking at the free stuff, it was a lot more. It was very different than the type of content that anyone else was putting out, right? Like all the guys who coach coaches talk about the same stuff. Here's how you run your hooks, and here's the types of reels you should be posting, and things like that. And then you dive deep on your YouTube channel, and it's like, no, this is like exactly how you do it. You were even providing scripts on certain things. I mean, the VSL training that you put out that was completely for free was like, I can't believe you gave that away for free, dude. That was worth its weight in gold. And really, it just came down to I've always been, having grown other businesses in the past, I understand KPIs, I understand levers, and I understand that like inputs versus outputs. And you guys were the only one who was talking like, this is your viewership conversion. How many views does it take to get a client? Everyone else is like, views don't matter. It's like, okay, well, if views don't matter, then all my posts that got fucking 12 views should have converted, right? If views don't matter, it's like clearly
Yeah.
they matter. And so it was just the mechanics. It just seemed like you guys understood the entire waterfall from someone having zero idea who you were and how to move them through a funnel in a methodical, repeatable, systematic way, where by the end, you were going to get a closing percentage that was repeatable over and over and over again. And then it's just how do you scale up the top? And so I guess if I could define it, I had a top of funnel problem and a middle of funnel problem. End of funnel was easy.
Yep.
You get on a call with me, I'm probably going to close you, right?
I still remember that the first time you and I talked, I remember you mentioning that your close rate was really high already. Like you said, you're basically a butterfly knife on the phone. It's just getting people to the phone was the problem.
Yeah, I had no idea how to do it. Like everyone talks about like, oh, you got to make this post and, say this in your stories. And it's like, and while don't get me wrong, I was getting one or two clients. I luckily I charge enough where it's like, yeah, I was able to pay my bills on that, but like nobody gets into online health and fitness coaching or coaching in general to like pay your bills. You're trying to build a business. And so nothing ever felt like building a business. I legitimately had a coach one time where I was following every single little thing that he said. And I was like, I'm just not gaining any traction. And his exact response to that was, well, how do you feel about what you're doing? Because how are you showing up? And I was like, how am I showing? I'm showing up like I'm fucking doing the work and I'm not getting any results that I paid for. And he like started to like go into like, and don't get me wrong, I understand like emotions play a role in business, but like that's not what I'm hiring him for. Like I don't need a drum circle session right now. I need you to fucking
Yeah.
teach me some of the mechanics. Like how the fuck are we going to do this? And that was a bust. And you guys were the only one who was just like, okay, so you're going to do this, and then you're going to do this in the middle of the funnel, and you're going to do this, make sure this gets done. I mean, even just down to the way that you would frame a call. Like once they booked it, what did I do around the time in between they booked it to the time where they showed up, where they were warmed up enough, where my closing percentage has actually gone up while working with you guys. I've actually been counting. I've been counting, and I'm a sales guy at heart. I got my first job in sales at 19. And I've been counting. I've gotten less than. I've enrolled 25 clients in the past 90 days. I have gotten less than 15 objections in total. And
That's
the
amazing.
objection sometimes is like, "Hey, can I split the payments?" And I still count that because it's not just yes. But for the most part, it's just okay. Let's do it. I mean, obviously, you get no sales
Yeah.
here or there, but it's like very rarely do I get someone who like I got to go to war with them on the phone. And that's just because of the entire process from top of the funnel, middle of the funnel. By the time we get on the phone, they already know everything about my program. They know exactly how it's going to work, what to expect. I mean, I've even started putting out content that's price conditioning, right? So they're like, they know it's not going to be cheap. It's going to be thousands of dollars. And it's just like, by the time I get to the price, I even had a guy go, damn, it's only 3,500 bucks. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Like, all right, that's awesome,
Yeah.
And that's how you know you have a good marketing, advertising, middle of the funnel, and everything along those lines.
Yeah. That when everything is lined up perfectly, I forgot where there's something about the your conversion rate is a function of how targeted your marketing is. That's all it is. Like your conversion rate is a function of how on the mark all the content is. Basically, that's all it is.
Yeah, 100%. It's like the old phrase, right? Like people, if you can articulate someone's problem better than they can themselves, they automatically
Yeah.
elect you as the person to solve it.
Yeah. What would you say is because you mentioned that lead gen was your biggest issue. What was the biggest lever in amping your lead gen?
The biggest one was going to be the style of posting. right, that you guys teach, like the way that you guys teach how to create a post that's not only engaging but is value driven, and also provides like a, I think you called it like indoctrinating your client before they get on the call. So even on your short form stuff, like,
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't even have like an like IP, like intellectual property. I never even articulated what my program was until I had to because of your program. And so I had to put together like my delivery system, which was already good, but it was all up here. And so the way that you guys
Yeah.
taught me, like, okay, you got to take that delivery system, you have to be able to package it and be able to teach it in a 60-second video, a 90-second video, a 36-minute video, a 10-minute video. Like, how are you teaching your method? That changed everything, because then all of a sudden my content went from being educational but also value driven. There's no more like, oh, here's the 3 tips to lose weight, right? Like, and I learned a lot of that from you. So the quality of my content went up. That started to get more leads. The second thing was, again, the middle of the funnel. So, taking what I'm learning mainly just from watching, right, how you guys do things. You guys started you guys have a YouTube channel, and I don't even know how many subscribers you have. I have like 112. So I'm not a YouTuber by any stretch of the imagination. And it's not flashy edited. Half the time I don't even put a cover thumbnail or whatever it's called, right? Because I don't really care. But by now having to do those, like, I guess it's like mid form, you would call it, right? Like 7-minute
Yeah.
videos. That then becomes things that I can give out for free, which then I can use to generate leads. And so it's like, hey, I just recorded this video. Do you want a copy of it? I send them to my YouTube. They watch a 7-minute video with me. And then the whole right side is all my other videos. And then they see I have
Yeah.
one video that has a couple thousand views. And that's my like,
They're like,
What's
whoa,
that?
what's that?
what's
They're
that?
like, oh, I see like 20 here, 50 here, but this one has like 3,580 or whatever. It's like multiple times more, and they just like get drawn to it, and it's already the deal's already closed. Time hasn't caught up yet.
Yeah. Like the guy today, right? He saw one of my posts, went to my profile. I didn't even have a conversation with him. Clicks on the link, watches the video, books a call within 12 hours, gets on the call. And at the end, he goes, yeah, dude, you had me by the end of the YouTube video. I'm like, all
Matt.
right.
Yeah.
It's like
done.
it's like having salespeople that work for you that don't ever complain, never take days off, and cost nothing. It's amazing.
Yeah. We talk about that a lot, like, especially going into 2024, like, content itself is going to become the sales team. It handles all the objections. It answers all the questions before the calls. Like, you can literally knock out every single objection. You can appeal to the logic side of the brain, explain exactly how it works. You can apply to the emotional side of the brain, show case studies, testimonials, stories, all those things like before a call. So then sales calls become like just signing up, like orders. You're like cash register at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just it's making the sales process as like, can I put like a drooling monkey in this sales process or not? Like, that's the goal, is like make it so that the sale's done so much they're just like, yeah, even if someone's horrible on sales calls, it would still work out.
Right. Because they're just, it becomes almost like a client intake call versus a sales call. Because I'm
Yeah.
not even selling. I'm like, hey, these are a couple questions that I ask. And then also, this is the program. And like, do you want to do it? And they're like, yeah, I do want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been,
I mean, you're at the point now where we I mean, I don't even think a closer would be like a bad thing to think about. 45 is like, you're like right there. Something we could definitely think about.
yeah. I'm contemplating it. I want to nail like, so I, we got setters put in place, and that just upped the volume, and that helped drive lead flow just through cold traffic as well. And so that's working out really well. And then I want to like really hammer that down for another quarter. And then I was thinking about bringing on a sales guy going into the summer, because that's when, I mean, April, May, June, and the health and fitness industry is just cakewalk.
Yeah, I also, do you feel that here's kind of an interesting, just like a general topic for our space as a whole. Do you feel that because you're like the influencer in this case, that when you get on the phone on sales calls, there's like a certain, not like pressure from their side to close, but do you feel like there's more of a, they're like, whoa, I'm talking to like Bryan, the guy I've been following for like a while now. This is crazy. Like, do you feel any of that, or what's your take on that?
I have had guys who were like, "Oh, I can't believe you responded," to like even a DM. I'm like, cool, but also like I'm a very normal man, like
I'm a human
yeah,
being. Relax.
yeah, like I don't live in LA. I don't have an OnlyFans, but these are some of the guys I would say are like there's that edification factor where it's like, oh, this is the guy who like has the program. But I think that that's more so built from the amount of time that they spend with me before they even get on the phone, right? Like there's
Yeah.
this, I would almost rather say that it's not an edification, but there's like a sense of trust and knowingness. They know.
It's referred to as a parasocial relationship.
uh,
When
okay.
someone knows you, but you don't know them.
Oh,
That's what
okay.
that means.
Using big
Yeah.
words, Vince. You know? Yeah, I mean, it's just like these guys get on and like they, and in my YouTube channel, like I talk about my personal life. I talk about the things I'm going through. Like, the guy last week who enrolled was just like, yeah, you're in prep for your next show, right? And that was just because of the last video that I put up where I was like, this is what I'm doing for my prep. And I'm just like including them in my journey, but also in the program. And so I feel like there's, like you said, a parasocial relationship. They're getting on. It's like they know so much about me, and now I'm just getting to know them.
Mm. It makes conversations so easy too, because you come in, you don't have to, when you're cold to them and they feel like they don't know you at all. Like, let's say if you're trying to close calls from like cold paid ads, they're very standoffish and they just have their guard up the whole time. But in this kind of situation, it's so much warmer from a standpoint of they're just like, they've heard you tell stories. They know, your family's names. If you post about that,
Mm-hmm.
they know the whole, like there's no
Yeah.
details that are left out at
Yeah, like
all.
when people get on a sales call and they almost expect you to like introduce yourself, it's already just over. Like you've already lost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, who are you?
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. It's been a lot of fun, and it's just cool, like how warm and like I don't want to say easy is the right word, right? Because like building the level of edification, having the ability,
Smooth.
yeah, like simple, right? Like streamlined
Yeah.
is a better word. And it just feels like it's this thing where now you just crank the volume up in certain places, and it's like more people that you get into the funnel as we continue with ads and all the other good stuff. It's just like everything, just all the numbers are just going to move, you know?
Yeah. What would you say is the biggest mental shift about running the coaching business, fitness coaching, whatever it may be? What's the biggest mental shift you've had since going from like 0 to 45?
I mean, the biggest one I would have to say is like volume negates any sort of neediness for luck, right? Like I don't have to like I used to back in like January, February, even in this year. It was like when somebody would agree to a call, I was like, yes, like finally, like I've been working 3 weeks for this, and it's like there was that feeling
Yeah.
almost of that I got lucky, or I had to time it right, or like I would make a post and then like when I would have people reach out to me, it felt more of like oh man, like somebody
Yeah.
came to
You
me.
were thankful to them rather than the other way around.
Yeah. And it's like, and now because it's like, I know what type of content to make. I know how to warm people up. Like and now I think you used the phrase, this was either in a YouTube video or like very early on in our coaching relationship. You were like, as more people come in, you get more client results, and it now becomes this flywheel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so now I have even more client results. I mean, I can post a new person every single week now. And so now more people
Yeah.
are even more
It
attracted.
gets easier to it gets easier to like post more client results, which gets more clients in, and it just like doesn't fucking stop ever.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's crazy. And now the social proof that I show on my calls, like when I share my screen, which I had never done before working with you guys, that was the one biggest sales tip ever, was actually being on that. I'll call it a client intake call because I was like, I'm pretty sure my credit card was right
Mm.
here when I was on the phone with you, Vince. Um, and I was like, I was watching how you were doing the call, and I was like, man, if it's this easy for me to enroll, like I can't wait to see how easy it is for these guys on my end. And like watching you, how you showed the group, you showed the mechanics, you showed the deliverables and all that stuff. I just,
Yeah, that's such a
It's so good.
it's so crazy how like I remember talking to our sales guy about this. Like sales almost isn't about like how much of like a fucking, you know, butterfly knife handler you are with objections. It's just like engineering just what's going to happen in the proper fashion where like, oh yeah, if you sell a coaching program, show the fucking Slack or like whatever you use to host it. Just show that on the call, and when people see like 60 other people in there, it's like really hard for them to be like, no, this isn't okay.
yeah. And like,
Yeah.
and dude, like when I show the Telegram community that I run, I mean, luckily within my past business, like I got really good at building like a community in a group chat because I was running an organization that had a bunch of independent sales reps that were all working in separate locations. So I had to like keep them involved. And so that was a skill that I've developed. But long story short, dude, my Telegram is like, there's 20 to 30 messages in a day. There's 50 members. So like when I show them,
That's so
I
cool,
like
bro.
scroll up and I'm like, that was today. And there's like 7 guys like flexing in mirrors and shit. And they're just like, oh, fuck, that's what I need. And
Yeah.
just value spike just skyrockets.
How many calls a week do you do with them?
I only do 2.
Okay. No, that's fine. I was wondering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
remember
I
when,
do. Go ahead.
well, I was going to say, I remember when originally you came in and we were like labbing on your offer. And one of like the big things that we came up with was more of the positioning of taking your offer from just like, hey, like, come build muscle to actually join like a community, a movement, a group, right? Can you
Yeah.
kind of touch a little bit on how that shifted things and then what, like, how that's affected the business too? Because,
Yeah, like offer positioning for like what changed about your offer positioning
yeah, also
basically.
too, because obviously now you've got a lot of ton of residual business, and that at Infer has been like a big part of it. Can you kind of like talk to that and just like break down the importance of making more than just like a, we'll call it a basic offer.
Yeah. I mean, I had a basic bitch offer. It was just kind of like, hey man, lose weight. I think I used to say like lose 20 pounds of belly fat. That was the way that I would position it. And now it's you're not joining to lose 20 to 40 pounds of weight. You're joining to lose 20 to 40 pounds of weight in under 180 days with the Unbreakable Dads community. Like you're becoming a part of something bigger than yourself. It also changed the types of phrases that I use on my sales calls, right? And when I talk about like accountability, I'm like, we leverage both psychological aspects of accountability, both one-on-one and community, right? Like when you're on a sports team in high school, you show up to practice because you know you're not going to let other people down. It's the same concept in the community, right? Like when you have 50 other guys who are all on the same roadmap as you, and if you don't work out that day, there's going to be that sense of like, well, I'm letting myself down, but I'm also letting the other guys down because they're all getting it done too, right? And so it was that level of positioning. I started to even in my content, right? Like the ask wasn't like DM me, it'd be like DM me to join the brotherhood, DM me to join the community, right? Become a part of something special. And then what's most interesting was I took that and I started to bring it into the delivery aspect as well. And so I came up with like core values, the 4 tenets of the Unbreakable Dad, like benchmarks. And so now,
That's
Like,
sick.
yeah. So now,
I feel like yeah, branding is gonna be killer for you as time goes on.
oh yeah,
well, oh, dude, like we're like these guys are forming an identity. Like they're saying, like I am an unbreakable dad, and so that goes back to like some ClickFunnels type shit, like expert secrets,
Yeah.
where it's like, how do you build a
Yeah.
cult? and it was like weird because the dots all kind of aligned when you guys were like, no, just like you need to put it out like you're like you're running a community, you're running a group of men, and take the men's group aspect. I was like, yeah, and then I should also kind of tell these guys that they're also a group. And what's interesting is the relationships now that are forming within the group. Like there are
Yep.
guys that are
That's
talking.
the coolest thing to see ever. Is like seeing like guys that just came in because they just liked what you were saying, and then like meet other guys and like legitimate life relationships form from that just because you were just consistent with Instagram and YouTube posts.
It's
That's literally
wild. Like there's these two guys, BJ and Aaron Baker. We call them AB, so it's BJ and AB, and they literally talk on the phone like 3 times a week. And Aaron just put up his like before and after. He lost 50 pounds with me, and he tagged like 4 guys in the group and me, which was like he was like, and I was like, dude, I didn't even realize you guys were all talking. He's like, oh yeah, they have a subgroup chat.
You
dude.
know
That's
you're in a
so
good
cool.
spot when your clients have subgroup chats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm excited. We're running our first live event next March.
Hell yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
What do
I'm
you guys?
grabbing I mean, I'm kind of keeping it local to me, and that's a little selfish on my end, but I live in the Paramus, New Jersey area. So like we're 20 minutes from Newark Airport, and there's a million hotels. And then also too, there's so much shit we can do. So we're going to go like axe throwing and, stuff like that. And
That's sick.
yeah, it'll be fun. Like we already got like 4 guys who said that they were in. So even if it's small, like I don't even care if there's only like 5 or 7 people at this first one. Like just the live event atmosphere is going to be fucking sweet. So, and it's only going to grow from there. Once one happens, then people are going to have the fear of missing out on the second one.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
In-person events are second to none, dude. Especially with like any kind of acceleration offer, like ours, obviously being business or yours fitness. It's like when everyone's on the same path towards a goal. All the remote stuff is cool, but at the end of the day, it is like you are kind of by yourself in a sense that you're just like really by
Yeah.
yourself. And when you bring people together and like, in your case, like you are we'll call it like the leader of the group, like the forefather of the community. All of those positive experiences that they associate with you, which is really cool. Because then that when it comes to upselling them or renewing their program or whatever, it's like all of those experiences they've had, all those relationships they've made, everything, not just like the weight loss, but like all of those experiences are directly associated with you, and it just becomes that much easier to renew the business, keep them around, spread positive word of mouth. And it's just like live events are fucking amazing for that.
Call it Pavlovian conditioning for monthly recurring revenue.
Yeah. Straight up, dude. I mean, these guys, they start for themselves, but they stay because of everybody else. It's just that simple. Because especially with men too, like, and I'm so glad you brought up the community aspect, because I didn't even realize one of the big pain points that I was aware of, but I didn't put into my marketing, I didn't put into my community, was the fact that I think every 5 years above 30, the average male has like 0.75 less friends per year, or like for every 5 years.
I believe it.
Right. So by the time somebody's 40 years old, they have like 1.5 friends, and it's crazy. Like guys in their 50s, like I have clients that are like, I'm like, yeah, what do you do with your friends? And they're like, I fucking don't have any. And so this becomes like their friend group almost.
Yep.
It's really cool.
Yeah, it's everyone that we bring in general now that sort of qualifies under the same status of offer, where it's like fitness and they're a father. We generally push them in this direction, not as just because the offer crushes so much, but also because there's a legitimate problem of most guys in America, or especially dads that are over the age of 30, are extremely ostracized in general. Like they just don't spend time with other people their age. That's why like the Freemasons used to be so popular so long ago. So that was like the only place where guys could go to just like talk to other dudes. It was just like, that was it. It was like, that was their area. But now it's like groups like this are actually super helpful in that light, though, because it's a huge problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a good offer to like honestly, I feel like out of all the internet offers, like there's so much dirt. Like the offer that you run is so clean and it's like actually such a net positive for society as a whole. And then obviously you're gonna be able to build an amazing business off the back end of that. So yeah, dude, it's really cool to see grow.
Yeah, we're doing some cool shit. Like I'm actually in communication with like so I've been seeing a therapist now for years. She's amazing, and like I'm gonna bring her in, and just like I even was like, hey, like what if I helped you build your client base, and then I could bolt that onto my offer, and then we could chart. You know what I mean? Like I could, what's your hourly rate? How do I build that into my offer? And I was thinking like, there's so many things that we could bring in because when you work with dads, when you work with men, it's like, cool, it's fitness, but it is so much more than that. Like
Yeah.
I was like, I should reach out to like a marriage counselor. Like I should try to get, a finance coach and just like, what if I built like this? Like we go
Yeah,
on
I
like,
like that.
we just bolt on. And so by the time somebody enrolls, it's like, and it's like Legos, if like, hey, if you want the finance package on top of this, it's an additional XYZ. If you want the marriage counseling on top of this, it's additional XYZ. And like we could offer so much more.
Yeah, one-stop shop, actually. I kind of
Build like
like
a
that as an
lot.
offer, like one-stop shop. But it's like you have to be a dad. You have to be like, I don't know, not over like a certain age, but like you have to be a dad and you have to like fit certain qualifications. One-stop shop for like, yo, if you need help with finances, go here. If you marriage counseling, go here. Our general calls are here. I'm fitness guy, like me being you in this
Yeah.
case. So X, Y, and Z. If you just like had all those things set up, it'd be pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah. And then it's like, then that, because I even talk about like it's part of the tenets of the Unbreakable Dad, right? It's more than just fitness, right? Like it's like how dependable are you to your kids and to your wife? How much discipline do you have in your work and your career, right? Like how are you taking care of your health, and that's kind of like what we nail on. And then like, what's your level of like devotion, whether that's to devotion to your wife, devotion to your faith, like all that stuff. Like how are you operating spiritually on the inside, and I even had a guy who just re-enrolled for another year, paid up front in cash, and he's like, dude, my relationship with my wife by being a part of this program has significantly improved. Just the way that I'm operating, like I'm taking more responsibility around the house. Like I'm having deeper conversations with my wife. I'm showing up better. And it's like,
That's so dope,
yeah.
dude.
And and that's the kind of shit that I talk about on my group calls. It's interestingly enough, like it's my group calls are not like, okay, so here's how you do a bench press. It's like fucking watch a YouTube video about that. You know what I mean? Like watch my shit on that elsewhere.
Yeah, it's not the technicalities of the fitness aren't the point of a fitness. That's what so many people don't understand is like fitness offers. Everyone thinks it's about talking like, oh yeah, so if you angle the bicep like this, it's like no, that's not. It's the fitness is a representative element of like how much you're taking care of every other part of every other piece of your life. So it's the technical doesn't matter in content and ads.
No, not even a little bit. Like I say this on my calls all the time. It's like you're not here to learn how to work out. Like you're here to change your belief
Yeah,
system. And so we're going to work on the
yeah.
6 inches in between your ears 95% of the time. And then like, like the call before Thanksgiving and the call before Christmas, I'm like, all right, guys, here's the game plan. Like this is how you're going to enjoy it, but we're going to actually like not gain a fuck ton of weight, and like helping guys.
Yeah, here's how like you're not gonna seem like a stick in the mud when
Yeah.
everyone else is like stuff in their face. But here's how you also do it in a way where it's like you don't eat. Remember Ben at the for like
Oh, geez.
9,500 calories in a day
At our event the other weekend, he rammed 9,500 calories on the Saturday.
in a single day on Sunday.
The kid's a freak of nature, man.
He's an
Gotta
animal.
love him.
We were at
Yeah, he
dinner and
is.
at STK we had like a private dining room and we got like everyone in there. Ben was at a table and we had like a bunch of sides and like we all finished our steaks and Ben's like, "You guys gonna eat that?" We're like,
And like over he did that like three times with the sides because like we people maybe had like a scoop, like everyone had like a little scoop of mashed potatoes, asparagus, things like that, and he was like, hey, you can eat that, you can eat that. And then like when the desserts came, everyone took like one or two scoops. He's like, are you gonna eat that, are you gonna eat
there's
that?
like 3 pieces of massive cheesecake.
Yeah,
Yeah, that kid's a beast, dude.
but yeah, I get what you mean. Like you like stuff that they actually like have issues with. You have almost like a pre-op brief where you go over just like, all right, guys, we're going into Kandahar Valley. Here's how we're gonna fucking do this shit.
Yeah. How do you deal with your mom, right? Like, especially grown men. It's like, how do you deal with your mom being like, what do you mean you're not eating a third piece of pie? Like, especially during the holidays.
Yeah.
And it's like tackling those conversations, and it's just helping them build the mental fortitude just to like not be a little bitch. Cause for the most part, guys, especially when it comes to food and when it comes to fitness, it's like a lot of guys are.
It's funny too, because it's not just fitness. It's literally like everything. It's business. Most of the time, why we see people fail is like just being too much of a bitch. It's like they're not posting. Why are they not posting? Because they're just scared or they don't want to. Like they're too lazy. That's
Yeah.
really all it is. End of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because it's just the belief system that holds them back. It's the way that they're interpreting everything, right? It's like, oh, I posted, but I didn't get any clients. It's like, okay, but like you should probably keep posting or else you're never going to get any clients. And it just goes back to the old saying, right? It's like, we don't see the world as it is. We see it as we are. Right. And so your social media, your lead gen and everything like that, it's going to be a reflection of whether or not you like genuinely believe that things are going to work out, right? Like your consistency level in every aspect of life.
Yeah, it's funny because that also goes with like your rev, like your monthly rev is actually more an indication of like where you're at developmentally than anything else. It's so scary to think of that too and realize that it's true, because then like, because everyone has like plateaus at a certain point. Like you hit like a high and there's something like you have to figure out, and there's something that like you have to do it, and it's like all it is just trying out multiple things until you figure out what the lesson is, and you have to keep fucking up until you find out what that lesson is supposed to be. And it's just scary to think about that, because if you're like stagnating, you're like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah. No, I know. And it's like, that was my big thing too, it was like before working with you guys, I was like trying to figure like what was the lesson that I needed to learn. And the lesson was one, how to warm people up. It was more of a skill set than anything else. And then just combining the warming up with volume. And then how do I just marry those two? And so, like I shot to $45,000 in 90 days of work with you guys for two reasons. One, I've been doing it for a while. And two, it's like this isn't my first time. Like, I mean, in my old business, we were having $250,000 months, so it's not like this type of revenue isn't scary to me. It isn't new to me. It's like, I've been here before. I just didn't know how to do it in this business. Right. And so like, I've been preparing myself for 30, 40, 50, $60,000 months for a long time.
Yeah.
So if anyone's watching this and they're like month fucking 6 and they're like, why can't I crack 10K? It's like, well, you should probably work on yourself a little bit,
Yeah. In a weird way, it's true.
Yeah.
It's so fucked that it's like that. Like the concept of upward spirals is crazy, where it's like like the three areas, like health, wealth, and then like family and relationships, whatever, relationships, family, things like that, where it's, in my opinion, you can only focus and make one better at a time, and you have to back burner the other two. But if you back burner the other two for too long and one stagnates, then you like hit a plateau of how far up you can, what's the next like when you're climbing a rock wall, like how far up you can reach.
Mm-hmm.
That's limited if you let like the other two slip. So if like you get really on diet and you're like prepping for like a show or something, let's be real, like business and relationships, that's going to take like a little bit of a backseat.
Mm-hmm.
When you're trying to like really push one to the limits and reach new levels, it's just fucking interesting how that works.
Yeah. I mean, I was a really shitty husband in the last 6 weeks of my prep. Like, we're speaking truth, man. Like, I just was an asshole all the time, and I was pissed off all the time, and just because I was eating 1,700 calories and a salad fucking 5 times a day. So like, I was hungry for like 3 months. So towards the tail end, like, I definitely was not the best husband, right? But then after that, it's like fitness kind of goes a little bit on the wayside, and then I can focus on being a good husband again and building my business. And then what's interesting is like once you reach a new height in any of those areas,
you have a new
You have a new
like
baseline.
bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, your baseline gets higher, so it's like you have to have those periods where it's like you go dark zone on either like biz or fitness, and then relationships. I feel like that's one thing where when you like tone down again on one of those two, you start to like pour back into the relationships. That kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you need to hit new heights to get to new baselines.
Yeah. I mean, it takes focus, right? Like, I know for a fact we're never going to go below $25,000 ever again. Like, it's just not, it doesn't even seem realistic in my mind to be like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, we only did 12 grand this month. It's like, dude, we did fucking 12 grand in the first 10 days of this month, you know? So
Yeah.
so now it's like, okay, so I've built the business now here, right? And then after doing my bodybuilding show, right, I'm in prep right now, but because I've done it before, it's that much easier.
Yeah.
So my attitude doesn't suck nearly as much. So my relationship isn't taking as much of a backseat.
Yeah.
And so now because I have more income in business, I'm actually doing more to pour back into both of those. I hired a better bodybuilding coach, and I now can do more fun shit with my wife and kids. We have plans for trips and shit like that. So it's like, yeah, it's like you said, it's an upward spiral. You have to like kind of pour back into everything as things grow.
Yeah. And it's like a winding staircase.
Mm-hmm.
So fucking bizarre.
Yeah.
But
Life's crazy,
just
man.
what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it fucking really is, bro. Like even just like this situation right here of just I still remember the event too where it's like multiple guys there where like, yeah, we got them, like 200 to 500 grand more a year, like annually. And just like by posting on social media, and like everyone's all hanging out and they're in like way better spirits now because financially it's a whole different situation. It's actually so cool to see it just pan out over like half a year where you meet someone and then just becomes you just like change lives in a weird way without sounding like super, fucking Disney. Like that's basically what it is.
Yeah, but truly, yeah, your program did change my life. It set me up to be able to do things with my wife, and I'm making investments in places that I haven't made in years, and like fucking finally upgraded the shit heap car that I had to drive after I lost my job a couple years back. Like, I was driving around a fucking piece of shit Ford Fusion for years that I fucking hated, and then it was just like, now that I know that my income has a new baseline, it's like I finally felt comfortable getting, the Forerunner that I've wanted for fucking 4 years. And so
that's cool. And also you have like the truck that all the other
now you're
dads
gonna
envy
identify with
now.
the prospects
Works
even
so
more.
well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's so perfect. Just bought my new Tacoma, and everyone's like, "Fuck, man, he's so cool." Like it's literally, but it's like for that prospect group that's like I've heard my own dad say that he wants that same exact truck. That's how I know it's just like, fuck, man, that guy's so cool.
Yo,
And then you get
400s are
more clients,
sick.
get them more results, and then you get a better car that prospects identify with and
Yeah,
roll.
It just keeps going.
corporate assets.
Yeah, it's a sales asset for sure.
Yeah, literally, I love it.
The long form sales.
I got it in the fucking the Lunar Rock, which is like the rarest color too. I had to drive like,
Is that the kind of like purple-esque? Not like purple, but it's like a off gray almost.
yeah, it's an off gray. So
yeah, I know what you mean.
yeah, dude. So I had to drive like 2 hours to find the only one in Jersey. And I was like, fuck it. This thing is fucking sweet. Yeah. Every day when I get out of the gym and I look at that car, I'm like, hell yeah. Like I'm actually excited to get into it.
That's fucking dope,
yeah.
dude.
Yeah. Put that in content, it'll bring in more business. Tastefully, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. You gotta flex it.
I'll just Wes Watson it and just show it at all times.
Yeah.
Every other post is just my car.
The unbreakable whip. What were you gonna say, Vince?
I was gonna say, Bryan, what would you say is like if you could go back to when you first were getting your fitness coaching business off the ground, and preferably you could phrase this in a way it's like where you're almost telling the audience, but what would you tell yourself way back when you had first started? Like one piece of advice or one general concept that would have just made everything so much fucking simpler and smoother and easier.
test more faster.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. Like,
can you elaborate?
Yeah. So I would say I was like hammering concepts and ideas and like not generating leads. And then I would just keep hammering the same, whether it's premises and videos, content, like 3 tips. I mean, the amount of fucking 3 tips videos that I made that generated me 0 clients. But I was just like, oh, this is just what I should do, because I was too afraid to break away and make different type of content that was unique to me and what I actually wanted to make, because I thought that's what I should post. And it's like some of my best posts that are the most, I would say, polarizing, to the degree where I'm pushing people away and pulling people towards me, are the things where it's just
all
like,
the yield is.
Yeah, like it like testing new ways of phrasing things. Like, you know, one of the things that my clients really talk about a lot that I never talked about until working with you guys, because you gave me the sheet where you were like, study your sales calls. And so while I don't like taking notes in Excel, I just like went back. I just take notes on calls just from, that's all my training in sales anyways. So I have all the phrases that they would say.
So just to clarify, you'd go back and listen and then fill it out after?
I'd go back and listen and fill it out after. And then also I went through all my notes from all of my calls that I've ever done, because they're all banked in Evernote, every single call.
Yeah.
And so certain phrases like, you know, like for my dads that work from home, it's like, there were some days I would never even go outside. That was said by this guy, Cody Friend, who paid in full, right? It was a pain point for him. There are some days where I just don't even make it outside. I started using that in content, and that started to pull guys, and they were just like, dude,
the marketing recursion, bro. Yeah. It's so fun. Like, that's the crazy thing, is that right there is probably the highest yield activity on the planet, is just writing down like answers in their exact words. Like, it can't be so like you summarizing, but like their exact quotes in the discovery phase, and then repeating that as like your hooks, or as like when you're talking about it in content. Literally, that's where like all the yield is. Yeah. Completely. It's so fucking, it's almost like unfair how much leverage there is when you start doing that.
And then distributing those messages to, like you were saying earlier, through all the forms of content, 10-minute, 5-minute, 1-minute, 30-second, minute, like that same message that they've told you all through and throughout. It's magic.
Yeah. And no joke, I saw a trend in almost every single one of my sales calls. It wasn't a phrase or a sentence, but it was a theme. They would always mention body fat percentage. Always. And so I started tweaking my hooks and tweaking my headlines to like, this is how I keep sub 15% body fat percentage all year long. This is how I crack below 20% body fat percentage for the first time ever after a decade of being overweight. This is how I stay under 15% body fat while working 80 hours a week. And all of a sudden it was just like lead flow. I made one post, one reel that got 1.8 million views. And I must have made, I don't know, $25,000 off that reel. It took me 5 minutes to make while I was taking a shit one day. Like,
yeah,
let's be honest, we all make content on the toilet. So it just was,
that's where the best captions always go in the pot.
Yeah. And so I post this thing. It was this off video that my wife shot of me at the pool, 7 seconds. I told my story using phrases from my sales calls, and that took off. And it was just like DM. And it was just,
yeah, I see your captions. Your captions are heat. Like the copy, like I call it, because, you know, like captions, it's weird where you have to really make the statements really short so it's legible.
Right.
Like, you're really good at Instagram caption copywriting, which sounds like such a fucking like it sounds like such a dumb thing, but it's like, that's a legit skill, because it's hard to do that. You have to like break it into really small statements. But it's, every time I see yours, I'm like, oh, Bryan so got this shit. I was like, I know he's fucking making money off that post.
Yeah, for sure. Because it's how do you write it like a third grader who, it's like, I'm almost like, how do I write as like an emotional third grader right now? Like, if I was just trying to convince my mom to let me have a sleepover with my cousin, what would I be saying right now? And how would I be saying it? It's short, quick, direct statements over and over and over again. and then just like toss in a couple emojis here or there, and just and learning how to break it up. How do you write one set, like what is it, like one layer sentences, right? Where it's just one line, double
Yeah.
space, one line, double space, one line. So that way it just keeps the eye, because it's like putting periods. Like nobody does that anymore. It's like it's a sense of completion psychologically that allows
Mhm.
them to want to continue to the next one, because they're actually ending the loop. It's like really weird. So yeah,
Yeah, it seems like such a micro optimization, but I think people sleep on feed post feed posts in Instagram where you like really go in depth on the copy. Those fucking work like hard. But I don't know who said this, but like buyers read every word.
yeah.
Like buyers read every word and they'll watch very long videos. Like they will.
Buyers are bingers.
So that's a
That's
good. I
good.
like that. I like that. Buyers are bingers.
Yeah. And like, dude, I get more clients from single static posts than I
Mhm.
do from my reels. My reels just get new
Yeah,
eyeballs. But where I really nurture and where I really like convince somebody that they're ready is
it's
it's
posts.
posts, because, and it's also I've started to look at posting on social media as not like, oh, I post on social media, versus like I'm running marketing campaigns. Like I'm
Yeah.
moving people into action, and so I'm always building to something now. And so now with the
Mhm.
YouTube videos, I can always build to a YouTube video. I can build to, like a 12-day challenge that I just completed. And we had 7 guys enroll. And now I'm getting paid to get leads, right? Like building to fucking applying for the program. Like I'm building towards something now. And you can't do that in 6 seconds on a reel. You can if you're good at writing captions that are engaging, but I would say people are more likely to read a caption on their feed than they are on the Reels feed, because Reels feed is like boom, 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 boom. At least,
Yeah. Not only that, it's just it's so much more. And I don't mean this in like a and I mean this in a positive connotation. It's more dramatic in a positive way. It's like more dramatic. Like you take it more seriously.
yeah,
It's like it's almost the word is almost. It's more. If you take a really good picture, it's almost like Shakespearean.
yeah,
If that makes
it's
sense.
more artistic. It's like,
Yes.
yeah, like it's poignant, like it grabs
Yep.
your attention now, because we're so accustomed to reels now after years, where like you get a quality static photo. It's like guys are like, oh, and
Yeah.
also like that's what grabs my attention in the explore page too.
Me. Yep. Same.
It's not the reels.
Static pictures. I love like that. I really hope that Instagram actually ends up kind of like pivoting back to that a little. I don't know if they ever will. I feel like reels are so hyper dominant, but God, like just well done static posts. You actually like if someone writes a really properly put together post, like you can like change people's minds, and sometimes your own mind will be changed if someone writes something really well. I remember the last one that you did, Brian, where it was you in that pose, where you're like in the gym and you're like shredded
Mhm.
and you drop that caption. I read that whole thing. It was good.
Thanks, man. Glad you read it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
see you
it
liking
also
some of my
makes you
stuff.
focus more on the actual copy too, because like when you see a reel, you're listening, you're watching. There's like so much shit going on. You're like, fuck my dopamine. But like a cap or a feed post, see the photo, it's like, oh, it's like nice, man. And then you can actually digest a lot, just a lot more. Sit back, read through everything, have a think, and then go to the next. Versus reels, it's just I feel like they've gotten. I mean, they have their place still, but it's gotten to a point now where it's almost too much a lot of times, and people will try and force too much through reels. Um, where yeah, I think feed
Yeah.
posts are we'll just cut through the noise, kind of cut the bullshit.
It it's also because the reading factor, like when you're forced to read. I remember Liam and we had a whole conversation about this one time. Video content, the reason you feel stupid when you watch like reels, TikToks, or even YouTube videos is because there's so much sensory and
You're not using your brain.
stimulus like overload that you're not using critical thinking at all. But when you read, what ends up happening is that your brain is naturally forced to index what you're reading against every thought and belief you already have. So you form an argument either for or against what the writer is saying. And what that does, it causes you to critical think. That's why you take it so much more dramatically, like we were saying. It's because you're forced to read and think and look at a static image, and there's like an argument that they either form for or against it. So that's why you take it so much more seriously.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. There's a lot of beauty in words, man. It's very true.
Yeah. So Bryan, if you were to just kind of like getting more towards the end here, because we've been going for almost an hour now, is if you were to give your opinion or advice to anyone that's considering joining the mastermind program, what would you say to them?
First off, pull the trigger. I've done every other big guy that you're already considering. I paid for, right? Like, I'm not going to drop any names just because I'm not going to put anyone on blast, but I've paid for all of them, and you do not get the level of attention to detail that you get with you guys. Your delivery system is, I mean, it's so much more than what you invest when you get in the program. Like, just the tools that you guys give, the scripts that you guys give, the mechanisms that you guys teach, the way that you guys teach it, the quality of the group coaching calls. Like, I've been on a bunch of group coaching calls. Nobody ever is like, hey, let's fucking audit your VSL right here in front of everyone. They're always trying to come up with all these topics, and that's great. And it's cool to like have topics, but at the same time, it's like, you guys are like, let's figure out where you are specifically. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, the delivery system is awesome. At this point, I think you guys are ahead of the curve. Because what's interesting is, after I enrolled in your program, I started to see other coaches then start to talk about the same things you guys were doing in the past, like 30 days, right? So other guys are starting to wake up to it. But you guys were talking about this for 7, 8, 9 months, well before, probably, I don't even know how long you guys were doing this before I even enrolled with you. So you're ahead of the curve. You guys are also very, very good at, how do I say this? You're also good at finding the new information as well. Like, you're constantly trying to improve your program. You're constantly trying to improve yourselves. And then you redistribute the information after testing it yourself back to us. It's not like, hey, I did this and this is the way that it works now. It's like, you guys are changing it as the market changes. And by the time somebody watches this and enrolls in your program, I don't even know what's going to be different, but I know that it will be different because you guys are evolving as the market sophisticates.
Yeah, I would say that's actually a very good point. Now that I think about it, yeah, we have had a couple, Liam. We have had a couple people copy our stuff about a month or two after we started doing it.
It's all right.
Yeah,
it's all right.
It's all right. Yeah, it's all
dude.
right.
Appreciate the kind words, and we're stoked to keep working together. See where this will go. I think in the next 6 to 12 months, like,
yeah, it's gonna be
monstrous.
Gonna be
a fucking beast.
Yeah, man. 100%. We'll have to do this again. Let's stamp it. December 13th, 2024. We'll be talking about, 100K months, 200K months. That's right.
Oh, for sure, man.
100%. 100%. But yeah.
All right, for anyone who's watching that's considering joining, first link in the description be to join the highticket.com mastermind. You can meet Bryan Scudiere there. But all right, guys.
Yep.
Great
That's
combo.
that. Cheers.
Peace.
Peace.